The horses were identical. Three coal-black stallions standing in a line at the auction yard, their coats gleaming like polished obsidian in the afternoon sun. Same height, same build, same white diamond on their foreheads. Wade Hollister had been buying horses for 20 years, and he'd never seen anything like them. These three were born together, the seller said. The man was thin, hollow-eyed, dressed in clothes that had seen better years. He stood beside the horses with his hand on the lead rope, his fingers trembling slightly. His name was Emmett Dalton, and the auctioneer had introduced him with the kind of hushed tone usually reserved for widows selling off their late husband's things. Wade stepped closer, running his hand along the nearest stallion's neck. The horse didn't flinch, didn't shy, just stood there, breathing steady, watching him with eyes that seemed almost human in their intelligence. "Triplets?" Wade asked. Emmett nodded. "Born on the same night, same hour. Never been separated since." "That's rare." "Rare doesn't cover it, Mr. Hollister." Emmett's voice cracked. "These horses are special. More than you know." Wade glanced at the other ranchers gathered around the yard. Most were keeping their distance, whispering among themselves. That was unusual. Good horses drew crowds, but these three had cleared a circle around them like there was an invisible fence. "Why's everyone staying back?" Wade asked. Emmett looked at the ground. "Because they know." "Know what?" "That these horses come with a condition." Wade's gut tightened. He'd learned long ago that when something seemed too good to be true, it usually came with a catch. "What kind of condition?" Emmett met his eyes. "They can't be separated, not ever. If you take one, you take all three, and if you separate them—" He trailed off, his face going pale. "What happens?" "Bad things." Wade almost laughed. He'd heard superstitions before. Horses that brought bad luck, land that was cursed, cattle that wouldn't breed under a full moon. Ranch life was full of old wives' tales, but something about the way Emmett said it made the laughter die in his throat. "What kind of bad things?" Emmett shook his head. "I can't explain it. You'd have to see it. But I'm begging you, if you buy them, keep them together. Don't separate them. Not for anything." Wade studied the horses again. They were magnificent, strong, healthy, perfectly trained from the look of them. The kind of horses that could transform a ranch, carry a man through the hardest terrain, and still have strength to spare. And Emmett was practically giving them away. The bidding started at $50 for all three, absurdly low. Wade raised his hand before he could talk himself out of it. 50. No one else bid. The auctioneer looked around nervously. Going once, twice. Silence. Sold to Wade Hollister. The other ranchers dispersed quickly, like they couldn't get away fast enough. Emmett handed Wade the lead ropes, his hands shaking. "Remember what I said," Emmett whispered. "Keep them together." "I will. I mean it. No matter what. Promise me." Wade looked into the man's haunted eyes. "I promise." Emmett nodded, then turned and walked away without another word. His shoulders hunched like he was carrying the weight of the world. Wade led the three horses to his wagon. They followed without resistance, moving in perfect synchronization, like they shared a single mind. As he loaded them up, old Ben Tucker, a rancher who'd been working cattle since before Wade was born, approached, his face grim. "You made a mistake, boy," Ben said. "They're just horses." "They're not, and you'll figure that out soon enough." Ben spat tobacco juice into the dirt. "Emmett's wife died 3 months ago, his son a month after that. His ranch burned down 2 weeks ago. And you know what started it all?" Wade waited. "He separated those horses, kept 2 in the barn, put 1 in the pasture." Ben's eyes were hard. "That night, his wife fell down the stairs and broke her neck. His boy drowned in the creek the next day, a creek that was barely 3 feet deep. And the fire started from nothing. No lightning, no lantern. Just fire. That's coincidence." "Is it?" Ben looked at the 3 stallions. "Those horses are cursed, Wade. Or blessed. I don't know which. But they're tied to something bigger than you understand. And if you're smart, you'll sell them before you find out what." Ben walked away, leaving Wade alone with the horses. Wade looked at them. They stared back, calm and patient. Just horses, Wade muttered. But he didn't believe it. Wade's ranch sprawled across 2,000 acres of Montana grassland, hemmed in by mountains on one side and the Yellowstone River on the other. He'd built it from nothing over 15 years. Through drought, through harsh winters, through the kind of backbreaking work that aged a man before his time. He lived alone now. His wife, Clara, had died giving birth to their daughter 5 years ago. The baby had died with her. Some days Wade could still hear their voices in the empty rooms of the house, could still smell Clara's lavender soap on the pillows. He'd learned to live with ghosts. He put the 3 horses in the main pasture, giving them space to roam. They stayed close together, never more than a few feet apart, grazing in unison. That night, Wade sat on his porch with a bottle of whiskey, watching the stars. The horses stood together in the moonlight, 3 dark silhouettes against the silver grass. And then one of them turned and looked directly at him. Not the casual glance of an animal. A focused, deliberate stare. Wade's skin prickled. The horse held his gaze for a long moment. Then it turned back to the others. Wade poured himself another drink. The trouble started 3 days later. Wade's hired hand, a young man named Danny Reese, came to him in the morning, his face pale. "Boss, we got a problem." "What kind of problem?" "The black horses. They're not eating." Wade followed Danny to the pasture. The 3 stallions stood in the center, their heads lowered, their bodies trembling. They hadn't touched the hay Wade had put out, hadn't drunk from the trough. "How long have they been like this?" Wade asked. "Since yesterday evening. I thought maybe they were just settling in, but—" Danny shook his head. "Something's wrong." Wade climbed the fence and approached slowly. The horses didn't move. Up close, he could see their ribs starting to show, their eyes dull. "Hey, boys," Wade said softly. "What's going on?" The nearest horse lifted its head, and then impossibly it spoke. Not in words, not in language. But Wade heard it anyway, a voice inside his skull, cold and ancient. "Find the 4th." Wade stumbled backward, his heart hammering. "Boss?" Danny called. "You all right?" Wade couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The voice echoed in his mind, relentless. "Find the 4th, or we die. And so do you." Wade didn't sleep that night. He sat at his kitchen table with Clara's Bible open in front of him, though he hadn't opened it in years. He didn't know what he was looking for. Answers, maybe. Reassurance. Something to explain what he'd heard. But the Bible had no answers for horses that spoke in your mind. By dawn, Wade had made a decision. He saddled his own horse and rode into town, leaving Danny to watch the ranch and the 3 black stallions. Emmett Dalton lived on the outskirts, in a cabin so small it looked like a strong wind could knock it over. Wade found him sitting on the porch, whittling a piece of wood with shaking hands. "I knew you'd come," Emmett said without looking up. Wade dismounted. "What the hell did you sell me?" "Exactly what I said. 3 horses. They're not just horses." "No." Emmett set down the wood. "They're not." Wade climbed the porch steps. "Then what are they?" Emmett was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "My grandfather bought them from a traveling preacher 40 years ago. The preacher said they were born during an eclipse, a blood moon. Said they were touched by something other, that they were bound together by forces he couldn't explain." "That's insane." "Is it?" Emmett looked at him. "You've heard them, haven't you? In your head." Wade's jaw tightened. "They said something about a 4th. What does that mean?" Emmett's face went ashen. "There were 4 originally, 4 brothers, the preacher called them, but one was lost. Stolen, maybe, or sold separately before my grandfather got them, and ever since the 3 have been searching." "Searching for what?" "For their brother, the 4th horse." Emmett stood, his legs unsteady. "They won't eat, won't drink, won't rest until they're whole again. And anyone who owns them gets pulled into the search whether they want to be or not." "Where is it?" "The 4th horse?" "I don't know. My grandfather spent 20 years looking. My father spent 30. I spent 15. Emmett's voice cracked. "And it cost me everything. My wife, my son, my land. That's why I sold them. I couldn't keep searching. I couldn't lose anything else." Wade felt cold. So you passed the curse to me. I'm sorry, I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. Not with them. Emmett pointed toward the direction of Wade's ranch. They choose you. And once they do, you're bound to them until you find the fourth or until you die. Whichever comes first. Wade stared at him. How do I break it? You can't. The only way out is forward. Then tell me how to find it. Emmett pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket. It was yellowed with age, covered in faded ink. A map. This is everything my family learned. Every sighting, every rumor. The fourth horse was last seen 15 years ago, near the Bitterroot Mountains. A trapper claimed he saw a black stallion with a white diamond on its head, running wild. Wade took the map. That's 1,000 square miles of wilderness. I know. It could be dead by now. Maybe. But they don't think so. Emmett gestured toward Wade's ranch. They can feel it, and they won't stop until they're reunited. Wade folded the map and tucked it into his coat. If I find it, what happens? I don't know. My grandfather said the preacher told him that when the four are together, something changes. A debt is paid. A balance is restored. Emmett shook his head. But I don't know what that means. Wade turned to leave. Wait, Emmett called. There's something else you need to know. What? The closer you get to the fourth, the more dangerous it becomes. There are others who know about these horses. Others who want them. Who? People who believe the four together hold power. Real power. The kind that can change fate. Emmett's eyes were hollow. And they'll kill to get it. Wade returned to the ranch to find the three horses standing exactly where he'd left them, still refusing to eat. Danny was pacing nervously by the barn. They haven't moved, Danny said. It's like they're waiting for something. They are. Wade dismounted. Saddle your horse. We're leaving tomorrow. Leaving? Where? The Bitterroot Mountains. Danny stared at him. Boss, that's 2 weeks' ride. And winter's coming. I know. What are we looking for? Wade looked at the three horses. Answers. That night, Wade packed supplies. Enough food for 3 weeks, ammunition, blankets, rope. He left instructions with Danny to watch the ranch while he was gone. What if you don't come back? Danny asked quietly. Then the ranch is yours. Sell it. Get out of Montana. Live a normal life. I don't understand what's happening. Neither do I, but I don't have a choice. The next morning, Wade hitched the three horses to a wagon. They moved willingly for the first time, as if they knew where he was going. As he climbed onto the driver's seat, he saw riders approaching from the east, 3 men on horseback, moving fast. Wade's hand went to his rifle. The riders stopped 50 yards from the ranch. The leader was a tall man with a scar across his cheek and eyes like chips of ice. Wade Hollister? The man called. That's me. Name's Cutter. I represent certain interested parties. Parties who'd like to make you an offer for those three horses. They're not for sale. Cutter smiled. Everything's for sale, Mr. Hollister. It's just a question of price. Not these. The smile faded. Then you're making a mistake. Those horses belong to forces bigger than you. And if you're smart, you'll hand them over before people get hurt. Wade raised his rifle. Get off my land. Cutter's hand drifted toward his gun. For a moment, no one moved. Then Cutter laughed. A cold, hollow sound. All right, Hollister. We'll do this the hard way. He turned his horse and rode off, his men following. Wade watched them disappear over the ridge. Then he snapped the reins, and the wagon rolled forward, carrying him toward the mountains and whatever waited there. Behind him, Danny stood in the yard, watching him go. The journey was brutal. Wade followed the map through narrow passes and along ridges where one misstep would send the wagon tumbling into oblivion. The weather turned cold, snow dusting the peaks and turning the trails to mud. The three horses never faltered. They pulled the wagon without complaint, their eyes always focused forward, as if they could see something Wade couldn't. On the fourth night, Wade made camp in a box canyon sheltered from the wind. He built a fire and sat close to it, heating beans in a tin pot. The horses stood nearby, finally grazing, their bodies relaxed for the first time since he'd bought them. Wade studied the map by firelight. According to Emmett's notes, the trapper who'd seen the fourth horse had been working a territory near a place called Devil's Tooth, a jagged peak that jutted into the sky like a broken fang. Wade was 2 days from it. He heard the riders before he saw them, hoof beats echoing off the canyon walls. Wade grabbed his rifle and doused the fire, plunging the camp into darkness. 6 riders emerged from the shadows, their faces hidden beneath wide-brimmed hats. Cutter rode at the front. "Mr. Hollister," Cutter called, "you're a hard man to catch up to." Wade aimed his rifle. "I told you, they're not for sale." "And I told you, we're past negotiating." Cutter dismounted slowly. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to hand over those horses, and in exchange, we let you walk away alive. And if I refuse," Cutter's men spread out, surrounding the camp, "then we take them anyway. And you die." Wade's finger tightened on the trigger. 6 against 1. I like those odds. "Do you?" Cutter gestured to the canyon rim. Wade looked up. 3 more men stood on the ridge above, rifles aimed down at him. 9 against 1. Wade's heart sank. "Last chance," Cutter said. Wade looked at the 3 horses. They were staring at him, their eyes gleaming in the moonlight. And in his mind, he heard the voice again, clearer this time, stronger. "Run!" Wade didn't hesitate. He fired twice, hitting one of Cutter's men in the shoulder. Then he vaulted onto the back of the nearest horse. The horse bolted. The other 2 followed, unhitched from the wagon, moving as one. Gunfire erupted behind them, bullets whizzing past Wade's head. He crouched low, clinging to the horse's mane as it raced through the canyon. The riders pursued, their shouts echoing off the walls. But the 3 horses were faster, impossibly fast. They moved like shadows, weaving through rocks and trees with precision that defied nature. After an hour, the sounds of pursuit faded. Wade slowed the horses and dismounted, his heart pounding. They'd lost the wagon, the supplies, everything. But they were alive. He looked at the 3 horses. "Thank you." The nearest one nudged his shoulder gently, almost affectionately, and Wade realized something. They weren't just animals. They were partners, and they were taking him where he needed to go. They traveled through the night, the horses never tiring. By dawn, Wade saw it, Devil's Tooth, rising against the pink sky like a monument to something ancient and forgotten. The horses stopped at the base of the peak, trembling with anticipation. Wade dismounted and climbed a rocky slope, following a narrow trail that wound upward. After an hour, he reached a plateau, and there, standing alone in a field of snow, was the 4th horse. It was identical to the others, coal black with a white diamond on its forehead. But it was wild, untouched by saddle or bridle. It paced back and forth, snorting and pawing the ground. When it saw Wade, it stopped. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then the horse screamed, a sound of rage and grief and longing all at once. Wade heard footsteps behind him. He turned. Cutter stood 10 feet away, his gun drawn. "Step away from the horse, Hollister." Wade didn't move. "You don't understand what you're dealing with." "I understand perfectly. 4 horses, 4 keys, 4 pieces of a power that can change everything." Cutter's eyes gleamed. "My employer has been searching for them for 30 years. And now, thanks to you, we found the last one." "Your employer?" "A man who understands what these horses really are, what they can do when they're together." Cutter aimed the gun at Wade's chest. "Now step aside." Wade looked at the 4th horse. It was watching him, its eyes filled with something that looked like hope. "No," Wade said. Cutter fired. The bullet grazed Wade's shoulder, spinning him around. He hit the ground hard, pain exploding through him. Cutter advanced, his gun leveled. "You should have taken the offer." Before he could fire again, the 4th horse charged. It slammed into Cutter, knocking him sprawling. The gun flew from his hand. The horse reared, hooves flashing, and Cutter rolled away, scrambling for cover. Wade pushed himself to his feet, clutching his bleeding shoulder. The 3 other horses had appeared on the plateau, moving toward their brother. The 4 horses circled each other, their movements synchronized, almost ritualistic. And then they touched, noses to noses, forming a cross. The air shimmered. Wade felt it, a pulse of energy that radiated from the horses, washing over him like a wave. It was warm, ancient, and impossibly vast. And in that moment, he understood. These weren't just horses, They were guardians, keepers of something old and sacred. And when they were together, they were whole. The vision came unbidden. Wade saw Clara, standing in a field of wildflowers, smiling at him. She wasn't a ghost. She was real, solid, alive. And in her arms was their daughter. Not the baby who died, but a little girl, maybe 4 years old, with Clara's eyes and Wade's stubborn chin. Wade, Clara said, it's time to let go. I can't. You can. You've been carrying us for so long, but we're not yours to carry anymore. She stepped closer. We're at peace, and you need to be too. Wade's eyes filled with tears. I miss you. I know, but you're not done yet. You have a purpose, a reason to keep going. Clara kissed his forehead. Live, Wade, for us, for yourself. The vision faded. Wade stood alone on the plateau, tears streaming down his face. The 4 horses stood together, calm now, their eyes no longer haunted. Cutter was gone, fled during the vision, or scared off by what he'd seen. Wade didn't know, didn't care. He approached the horses slowly. They turned to him as one. Thank you, Wade whispered. The voice in his mind was different now, gentle, kind. You freed us, now we free you. The horses bowed their heads, and Wade understood. The debt was paid, the balance restored. He led the 4 horses down the mountain together. They followed willingly, no longer desperate, no longer driven by an unfinished quest. When he reached his ranch 2 weeks later, Danny was waiting, relief flooding his face. Boss, I thought you were dead. Almost was. Wade dismounted. But I'm back, and I brought guests. Danny stared at the 4 identical horses. Is that? Yeah, the 4th one. What happens now? Wade looked at the horses. They were grazing peacefully, together at last. Now they rest, and so do I. Word spread quickly. Within a week, people came from across the territory to see the 4 black horses. Some called them a miracle. Others called them cursed. But everyone agreed they were something beyond ordinary understanding. Cutter never returned. Wade heard rumors that the man had disappeared into the wilderness, driven mad by what he'd witnessed on the plateau. His employer, whoever that was, never made contact. The horses thrived. Wade kept them together as promised, and they became the foundation of his ranch. Their offspring were prized across the West, strong, intelligent, and impossibly loyal. But the 4 originals never separated. Even when Wade offered to sell their colts, he made it clear. The 4 stayed together. Always. 1 year later, Wade stood on his porch at sunset, watching the 4 horses graze in the golden light. Danny had just left to deliver a string of their colts to a buyer in Billings. Wade had been thinking about Clara more lately, not with the crushing grief that used to consume him, but with a gentle warmth. He'd even cleaned out her things from the bedroom, finally letting the house breathe again. He heard footsteps behind him. A woman stood at the edge of his property, maybe 30, with auburn hair and a worn traveling cloak. She was leading a small wagon. Mr. Hollister, she called. Wade walked down to meet her. That's me. My name is Sarah Mercer. I heard you have horses for sale. I do. I also heard, she hesitated. I heard you help people who are lost. Wade studied her. There was sadness in her eyes, grief, the kind he recognized. I lost my husband last year, Sarah said quietly, and I've been drifting ever since. But I need to stop drifting. I need to find a purpose again. Wade nodded slowly. I understand. Do you? More than you know. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Sarah smiled, small, tentative, but real. Could I see the horses? She asked. Of course. Wade led her to the pasture. The 4 black stallions lifted their heads as they approached, watching with those ancient, knowing eyes. Sarah gasped. They're beautiful. They are. Are they really what people say? Magical? Wade smiled. I don't know about magic, but they taught me something important. What's that? That sometimes the things we're searching for aren't things at all. They're connections, purpose, reasons to keep going. He looked at her. And that it's okay to let go of the past, to live again, Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I don't know if I can. You can. Trust me. She looked at him, then at the horses. Thank you, Mr. Hollister. Call me Wade, she smiled. Thank you, Wade. Epilogue 5 years later, Wade stood in the same spot, but everything had changed. Sarah was beside him now, her hand in his. They'd married 2 years ago, in a small ceremony by the river, and sleeping in the house behind them was their son, a boy they'd named Thomas after Wade's father. The 4 black horses still grazed together, older now but no less magnificent. They'd never been separated, not once, and they never would be. Wade thought about the journey that had brought him here, the grief, the loss, the desperate search through the mountains. He thought about Clara and their daughter, now finally at rest in his heart rather than haunting it. What are you thinking about? Sarah asked. How everything had to happen exactly the way it did. How all the pain led to this. Do you regret any of it? Wade looked at her, at the life they'd built, at the horses that had saved him. Not a single moment. The sun dipped below the mountains, painting the sky in shades of copper and rose. The 4 horses stood together, silhouetted against the light, eternal and unbroken. And Wade Hollister, who had once been a man haunted by ghosts, was finally, truly free. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, 3 months after Wade's 5th anniversary with Sarah. It was delivered by a postal rider who looked nervous, his eyes darting toward the 4 black horses as if they might charge at any moment. Wade signed for it and watched the man ride off faster than necessary. The envelope was thick, expensive paper sealed with red wax. No return address. Just Wade's name written in elegant script. He opened it on the porch while Sarah fed Thomas his breakfast inside. The letter was brief. Mr. Hollister, my name is Dr. Nathaniel Cross. I was your wife Clara's physician during her final months. There are things about her death, and your daughter's, that you were never told. Things I've carried for 5 years that now, in my final days, I can no longer keep silent. If you want the truth, meet me at the Redemption Church in Billings. Come alone. Come soon. I haven't much time left. Dr. Cross Wade read it 3 times, his hands trembling. Clara's death had been explained simply. Complications during childbirth. The baby's cord wrapped around her neck. Both gone before Wade could reach them. But now this. He folded the letter and tucked it into his coat. Sarah appeared in the doorway, Thomas on her hip. Who was that? She asked. Just business. Wade forced a smile. I need to ride to Billings. I'll be back tomorrow. Sarah's expression tightened. She knew when he was lying. Wade, I promise, it's nothing dangerous. Just something I need to handle. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Be safe. He kissed her forehead, then Thomas's. Always. Wade rode one of the 4 black stallions, the one that had been wild, the 4th. It had bonded with him more closely than the others, as if it understood what he'd sacrificed to reunite them. The journey to Billings took most of the day. By the time Wade reached Redemption Church, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the empty street. The church was old, wooden, leaning slightly as if tired of standing. Wade tied his horse to the post and pushed open the heavy door. Inside, a single candle burned near the altar, and beside it sat an old man in a wheelchair, his body frail and wasted, his face gaunt. Dr. Cross. Mr. Hollister, the doctor said, his voice a papery whisper. Thank you for coming. Wade approached slowly. You said you have answers. I do. Answers I should have given you 5 years ago. Cross gestured to a pew. Please, sit. Wade sat, his jaw tight. What happened to my wife? Cross took a shuddering breath. Clara didn't die from childbirth complications. She was poisoned. The word hit Wade like a physical blow. What? Someone gave her something. A powder mixed into her tea during her final week of pregnancy. It caused her labor to start early, violently. The baby, Cross's voice broke. The baby never had a chance, and neither did Clara. Wade's vision blurred, his hands clenched into fists. Who? That's what I've spent 5 years trying to discover, and 3 months ago, I finally did. Cross pulled a folder from beneath his blanket and handed it to Wade. Her name was Margaret Cutter. She was Cutter's wife. Wade's blood turned to ice. Cutter, the man who tried to take the horses, the same. But this goes deeper than horses, Mr. Hollister. Cross tapped the folder. Margaret Cutter was obsessed with the legend of the four horses. She believed they held the power to cheat death, that whoever united them could bargain with forces beyond our understanding. She thought if she could force you into desperation, into grief, you'd become the perfect instrument to find the fourth horse. She killed my family to manipulate me. Yes, and when you bought the 3 horses from Emmett Dalton, she knew her plan was working. She sent her husband to follow you, to take the horses once you'd found the fourth. Cross's eyes filled with tears. I didn't know until it was too late. Margaret was my patient too. She confessed on her deathbed, riddled with the same poison she'd used on Clara. Guilt, perhaps, or divine justice. Wade stood, his whole body shaking. Where is she buried? She's not. She was cremated. Her ashes scattered. And Cutter. After what happened on the mountain, he disappeared. Some say he went mad. Others say he's still searching for the horses. Cross leaned forward. But there's more you need to know. More. Your daughter didn't die, Mr. Hollister. Wade froze. The world stopped. What? The baby was born alive. Weak, premature, but alive. Margaret had arranged for a midwife loyal to her to take the child, to hide her. Cross's hands trembled. I discovered this only recently, through letters Margaret left behind. Your daughter was given to a family heading west. She's alive, Wade. She's 5 years old now. Wade couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Where? Cross pulled out a second envelope. The family settled in Oregon, a town called Willowbrook. Their name is Chen, immigrants from China. They never knew the baby was stolen. They believed they were adopting an orphan. Wade took the envelope with shaking hands. Why? Why tell me now? Because I'm dying, cancer, and I can't face my maker carrying this sin. Cross's eyes were desperate. You deserve to know. You deserve the chance to reclaim what was taken from you. Wade stared at the envelope. Inside was everything. An address, names, a description of the girl, his daughter, alive. There's one more thing, Cross said quietly. The horses, they knew. Wade looked up. What? When the 4 were reunited, when you experienced that vision, it wasn't just closure, it was revelation. The horses showed you Clara at peace because they knew you'd need that strength for what comes next. Cross's expression was haunted. They're not just guardians of power, Mr. Hollister. They're guardians of fate, and yours isn't finished. Wade rode through the night, his mind reeling. When he reached the ranch at dawn, Sarah was waiting on the porch, her face tight with worry. Wade, what's wrong? You look... My daughter's alive. Sarah's eyes widened. What? He told her everything. About the poison, about Margaret Cutter, about the family in Oregon. When he finished, Sarah was crying. What are you going to do? I don't know. Wade looked at the 4 horses. They were standing together watching him. Part of me wants to ride to Oregon right now, to bring her home. And the other part knows she has a family, parents who love her, a life. He swallowed hard. What right do I have to tear that apart? Sarah took his hands. She's your daughter, Wade. You have every right. Do I? She doesn't know me, doesn't know Clara. She's been raised by the Chens for 5 years. To her, they're her parents. So what? You just let her go? Wade looked at Thomas, sleeping peacefully in Sarah's arms. What would you want if someone came and told you Thomas wasn't really yours, that his real father was out there? Would you want them to take him? Sarah's face crumpled. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. Clara taught me that. They stood in silence, the weight of the decision crushing them both. Finally, Wade said, I'm going to Oregon, but not to take her, to see her, to make sure she's safe, loved, happy. And if she is, he took a shuddering breath, then I'll let her live the life she has, because sometimes love means letting go. Sarah nodded through her tears. When do you leave? Tomorrow, I'm coming with you. Sarah, she's part of your life, which means she's part of mine. Sarah's voice was firm. We do this together. Wade pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. What did I do to deserve you? You survived, and you kept your heart open. She pulled back, meeting his eyes. Now let's go meet your daughter. The four horses stood together in the pasture, their eyes gleaming in the dawn light. And Wade knew, whatever happened in Oregon, whatever choices he had to make, he wouldn't be making them alone. The journey wasn't over. It was just beginning.